Hey everyone! This story is about love, but not the romantic kind this time around, or one between a father and a child. It is an unusual love story between two different animals that one couldn't have imagined at the end of this story. This story is about what happened after a tiny dog was thrown into a lion's cage. The people of Rathore town had a solid reputation as hunters. The town was located close to the forest, and it was in their habit to capture animals that were preserved for people to see. The town was like a mini zoo, but also the town was known to sell animals to zoos. They usually receive requests from zoos in the city, and once the animal asked for by the zoo is captured, such an animal is transported to the city, or the zoo officials come to the town to transport the animal to the city. The animals caught by the villagers in Rathore were taken care of by the villagers. There came a day that a request was made for a lion by a zoo in the city. The request was the first of its kind that had been received by the people of Rathore. They decided to be on the lookout for a lion and hoped that for their sakes, they caught one soon. The quest for a lion persisted for a long time without any success for the people of Rathore. But on a fateful day, a lion was captured and caged. The next challenge was how to get the animal to the city, or how the zoo officials were going to transport the animal for their purposes. A message was sent to the zoo in the city that their request had been captured, but it was too late as the zoo had gotten a lion from another source. This left the people of Rathore with no choice but to ensure the lion was taken care of. This came as a challenge, as a lion wasn't easy to maintain, but they were determined to ensure the lion survived. The lion was always fed by the people, and this went on for a while, but there came a day that a tiny dog that couldn't move was found in the forest, and the hunters that captured it felt it was going to be a nice meal for the lion. The hunters that found the tiny dog got to the town that night and threw the tiny dog into the lion's cage while remaining certain that the dog would have been devoured by the lion before morning came. It therefore came as a shock to the hunters and the town people when the tiny dog was still in the lion's cage the next day. They thought to themselves that the lion was going to devour the tiny dog later, but they fed the lion its usual food. The next day, their shock increased when the tiny dog was still in the lion's cage and not to lying where it was found the previous day as they had thought. It was now moving around the cage in slow strides. This came as a shock to the villagers, and rather than leaving upon giving the lion its meal, they waited to see what was going to happen. A few minutes later, the lion started eating and equally shared with the tiny dog its meal. This rather unbecoming behavior that was portrayed by the lion came as a rude shock to the villagers, as this wasn't the reaction they had expected. This made them decide they were going to be chipping in with food that would cater to both animals into the cage. The feeding of both animals by the villagers continued, and soon the dog had gained some weight and could move freely around the cage now, as well as bark properly. The lion and the dog even played together in the cage without the lion causing any harm to the dog. The villagers day by day expected the lion to devour the dog, but this never happened. Rather, their friendship strengthened. The villagers soon got used to their friendship. But along the line, something happened. The villagers in their usual practice went to the cage to feed both animals, but were shocked to find the dog lying on the floor with the lion hovering around it. The people of Rathore were shocked, but they were sure the lion hadn't killed the dog because the body of the dog was still in the cage. The villagers walked around the cage to inspect what could have happened and discovered there was a dead snake in the cage. So it happened that a snake had made it into their cage while both animals slept, but the dog had woken up just in time to save the lion from being bitten by the snake. The dog fought with the snake and successfully killed the snake, but the dog had been bitten also, and that was the reason the villagers found the dog lying on the ground. The villagers got the dog out of the cage to get it treated, They equally left food for the lion to feed on, but they were shocked when they realized the lion didn't touch its food the next time they brought food for the lion. This remained the trend for days, the lion not eating its food. Meanwhile, the villagers were able to successfully treat the dog, but the dog also wasn't eating whenever it was fed. Soon, the villagers realized both animals couldn't live without each other. The villagers decided to return the dog to the lion's cage whenever it was completely healed. This day came after 2 weeks, and during this period, both animals refused to eat. The villagers gathered around on the day the dog was going to be returned to the cage to see the reaction of both animals. The cage was unlocked and the dog was allowed entrance into the cage, and both animals rejoiced. The lion roared and the dog barked. Soon, the lion enclosed the dog in a warm embrace, and during this period, the villagers slipped food for both animals into the cage, and they were surprised when both animals ate the food. It was then it was realized that both animals had formed a bond. They were now inseparable. The animals maintained their routine by playing with each other and eating together. However, this bond was cut short when a zoo in the city finally requested that the lion be transported to the city without the dog. A few days later, the town was informed that the lion refused to be fed, and this didn't come as a shock to the villagers because even the dog refused to eat anything it was fed. The villagers then informed the zoo of the bond that existed between the lion and the dog, and soon the dog was also transported to the city. Both animals were really happy when they met again, and just like magic, they both ate when they were fed in the cage. The story of a lion and dog that are inseparable soon spread in the city, and more people came to the zoo to see for themselves. The visitors to the zoo were always told the complete story of both animals. People were always in awe because they couldn't comprehend how the lion and the dog could have become inseparable, considering that they both were different animals. Friends, did you enjoy this story? Are you equally bemused at the kind of bond that got established between both animals? Well, I believe you shouldn't be, because love is beyond what can be comprehended by any creature on earth. Don't forget to comment, like, and share this video.